Hi, and welcome to All Things Cozy with Gillian,
And Matt.
a bi-weekly podcast about everything warm, soft, and comforting. This week, we're dusting off the bookshelves of our childhood to revisit our favorite reads from when we were young. But before we thumb through the pages of decades past, let's check in with Cozy in the News. And I'll kick it off because my news desk is chock full of drama this week, and it's one of the candy empire variety. I've apparently developed a reputation on this show, at least in my own head, for covering legacy candy and ice cream franchises, so it feels only right to unwrap the story of Brad Reese, the grandson of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups inventor, H.B. Reese. Brad made waves in mid-February when he took to LinkedIn to exact his sweet revenge on Hershey, the company that bought Reese's candies. Brad, who is 70, a detail that feels relevant, alleged that Hershey has been skimping on real ingredients, swapping milk chocolate for compound coatings and peanut butter for peanut butter-style creme. He even shared an anecdote about buying Reese's Valentine's Day mini hearts and throwing it in the trash because it was quote-unquote inedible. That apparently was a final grain of sugar. And all of the causes one could stand for, this is the peanut butter mound Brad has decided to die on. The bitter screed eventually reached some of Brad's family members who work at Hershey, including his cousin Becky Hilgers, who texted him in hopes the Coco Loco bashing would stop. Brad, this is your cousin Becky. You have created a nightmare for our family and the company, she wrote. Hilgers also floated a theory to a news outlet that will remain unnamed. He's an attention getter, she argued. He walks around everywhere he goes with the Reese's jacket on, just so people will make conversation with him.
Wow.
This is the funniest part of the story to me, because who sees a man parading around in a Reese's jacket and thinks, I have to talk to that guy? Frankly, probably me, but most people wouldn't. And yes, Facebook photos confirm Becky is not exaggerating. But to bring it back, because this has been a long-winded tale, why the story is cozy to me, it's a low-stakes drama and feels like a plot out of Parks and Rec, Sweet'em style. That's my sugar-coated tale.
Yeah, this is so much drama. I have seen this leak into like the mainstream press around the quality of Reese's peanut butter cups. And I'm so glad actually that Brad is speaking out and really doing the important work of making sure that we have high quality Reese's peanut butter cups. It does make me feel like I am lacking a sophisticated palate because, to be quite honest, I have noticed a slight change in the flavors, but I haven't noticed such a dramatic change that I would ever throw out the Reese's Valentine's Hearts or whatever. I would still definitely save them and eat them.
No, I mean, the Reese's cups could honestly be filled with rat poison. I'd probably eat them. Like, I haven't I love these. I love Reese's. That's my favorite candy. But I have seen discourse online that they agree with Brad. Folks have been sharing pictures of the inside of Reese's cups. And obviously, I don't think Brad is doing this because he's truly deeply concerned about the quality of Reese's cups. I think he just wants back in on the action. And so I do feel a little sad for him in that way. Maybe they can just get him a job at the Hershey Company. He seems very attached to the legacy of the candy.
Yeah, I mean, as is his right. I'm wondering, who did he leak the Brad, this is your cousin Becky, you've created a nightmare for our family and company text? Did he must have shared
He
that
must have.
because
He's been giving interviews left and right.
he's like, look at this text Becky sent me.
So it's really like an unhinged succession. And that's why I've just been drawn to it. And maybe folks might not necessarily this a cozy story, but I love this kind of drama. It doesn't hurt anyone. It's funny. It's weird. It's strange. So
Yeah.
next time you go buy a Reese's cup, think of Brad and maybe write the company like some
I'll
people
think of
have.
Becky too.
Yeah, and think of Becky. She's like, not Brad again. But Matt, what news are you getting into this week?
My story is all about touching technology, literally, because it's about students in Georgia who have built 3D printed prosthetic hands for children with disabilities who have needs related to their limbs. In fact, there were so many students at the school who wanted to assist with this project that the teacher had to only take a certain number of them. Although my educator sirens are going off a little bit and wondering why anyone needs to be excluded from the project. But
Yeah.
I also do appreciate that There was an intentionality around the consistency of completing these builds, wiring the circuits. There's a lot of learning that has to happen to make these things a reality. And they are following very specific design so that they are working models for these kids. They showed a little bit of the process where they take the measurements of the child that they're designing for. They have photos that they're referencing. But the really touching part, of course, beyond the charity that's happening around them helping other kids their age in need and the empathy that's being developed through this process, which is so important, is to even be a part of this project. They had to write these essays to show why they're the perfect fit for doing this project. And apparently they made their teachers cry with how beautifully written these essays were. And I kind of wish they were published so that we could enjoy them as well. And as the teachers were describing in the video that we have linked in our show notes, it's not necessarily the students that they were expecting to come through, but a lot of them were quite quiet in class, but have really found their voice through this project and through helping others in their community. We talk a lot about how technology is impacting both ourselves, but also young people and their attention and their time, and making sure that we're balancing our screen time with being outdoors and sleeping and doing things that are healthy for us. But what a great reminder that technology can be so empowering and beneficial for everyone. So I really love this altruistic use of technology to help others.
Yeah, and these students will remember this for the rest of their lives. 110%.
Lifelong skills, both in terms of their computer science knowledge, but also their social emotional learning.
Yeah, and I was watching the video as you were talking, and I recommend everyone to go to the show notes where I'm sure you'll share the link to this and check it out. Well, let's come down from our sugar high and heartwarming news to snuggle up with some cozy books from the libraries of our childhoods. And we've covered many books on this show, from cozy mysteries to nostalgic chicken soup for the soul series, but we've never dabbled in what started it all, the books of our childhood. Not to toot our own bookmark, but we grew up in the golden age for young readers. The Scholastic Book Fair was at its peak, and we had some crumpled dollar bills to burn. Our goosebumps were bumping with R.L. Stein. We picked up shovels alongside Louis Sacker, Stanley, and Hector, and traded luminous scales with Marcus Pfister's Rainbow Fish. It was the hottest club, and our library cards were always maxed out. There's so much more we could say about this era, but we'll let our book picks do the talking. Before we flip through the pages, let's set the scene with our cozy reading setups from childhood. So, Matt, when you were a little kid, what did your reading nook look like? What were your essentials?
Jillian, I'm shocked it took us this long to get to our children's book episode.
I know.
Honestly, it feels like such an important episode that it almost was difficult for me to even begin to make my picks that we'll get to in a moment, because it was like, I felt like if I forgot anyone, I'd be betraying a trusted friend. So forgive me to any books or any childhood memories of reading that I'm neglecting to mention. I'm speaking to myself in this case.
No, same here. I
Forgive
feel the
myself
same.
for not mentioning every single thing. But when it comes to the actual reading nook, like the place where I do my reading, I had a little rocking chair as a kid. I was a grandpa in training from the day I was born, practically. I think the rocking chair might have been put together by a family member who made it by hand, because I was desperately trying to search for this model of rocking chair. I was like just Googling like 1980s rocking chair, 1970s rocking chair, like for children. And it all came up with these like little, like what you're imagining, like, I don't know, old Mother Hubbard, like rocking back and forth in, but that's not what it looked like. It looked much more mid-century. It was the skis that it was gliding on were thick, like they were wide. They were not like thin little things. So it had some heft to it. It was upholstered and very cushiony and comfy as well. It wasn't just all pure wood. And I loved that thing. I would take my little book and I would go sit myself in that rocking chair and just rock myself silly while I read. And my most hated picture from childhood is one of me passed out in this chair. All I'm wearing is my tidy whities. And as much as I despised that picture then, and I still am embarrassed by it now, it goes to show you just how much I loved that chair. And it was my reading place forever.
Well, I don't think it should be your most hated photo. It should be your most beloved photo. That sounds
I know. I
adorable.
just feel so exposed.
Well, yeah, there's something about childhood photos, like where you're snapped in your most vulnerable
Just like,
moments
yeah, just like asleep in the
in your
chair, like
drawers.
in my
Yeah,
underwear. Yeah.
your hiney. A rocking chair, I mean, I can't think of a better spot to get cozy with a book. And I think it's true what they say is that who we are when we're young is who we are when we're older. Not much changes, and that really sums up you in the best way. That rocking chair you're describing does seem familiar. Like, I can kind of see it in my head, but that'd be really cool if a family member actually made it for you.
I have family members who work with wood. Like, my aunt built me a toy chest. I think my aunt might have made it, but if she didn't, then it could easily have been purchased. But I don't know. It's hard to find something in that style. It didn't look country. It looked like more modern looking.
Well, it has to be floating around somewhere in your family now, I'd
Yeah.
imagine.
And again, I would share the picture so that people could track it down potentially, but I'm not sharing that picture.
For Matt's eyes only. My reading space wasn't as comfy. I guess it was comfy, but just maybe wasn't as plush as a nice rocking chair. I had this little space between my bed and my wicker dresser. I put a blow up chair in that little space. It's about the size of a small square and had all my stuffed animals there. And that's where they would all hang out.
That was the hot spot to be in the
It
bedroom.
was a hot spot, and honestly, I didn't really require much, and I still don't, as long as I can just spread out and just feel comfy and cozy. I don't really need a lot to read. I don't need a candle lid, and it'd be nice, but as long as I can just put my katukas down somewhere, I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as kids, we just like little corners, like little areas of the world that we can make our own. Whether it's like a little fort or a little corner of the room, it doesn't take much. It just needs it to be like a little soft area, have your stuffies around you, and you're in heaven. It reminds me also of, did you ever have like take your favorite book or your plushie to school day kind of
Yes.
thing? And did you have areas in your classroom that you'd prefer to read in?
No, I mean, I think really what I remember is just either we could read at our desk or just pick a spot in the room, and I
Yeah,
think
put down a
there's
blanket or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's always, like everyone always had "Oh, that's the best spot to sit." I
It would be
remember
hard to get to. Yeah, my
yeah,
library had,
fighting.
like they remodeled our library in elementary school, like, halfway through my tenure. They added, like, these, like, levels to part of the library where it had, like, steps where you could, like, climb up and read, and the top had so much height to it where you could see, like, the whole library from up
Oh my
there.
god.
We would all race to try to get to the top and read our books during library time because it was like, who didn't want to have the
Oh,
vista while you
yeah.
read?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could only imagine I was racing over to that, like you said. Yeah, book spots are important, and so the fact that they made the library designed it in that way for kids is super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, what were we reading in our nooks? What were our favorite children's books? Matt, kick it off.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try and not keep us here all day. I have some honorable mentions. I loved the All By Myself series with the critters, sassy critters with like a lot of like blue eyeshadow. It felt like at the time they have those heavy lids.
Yes, they're very 80s.
I loved myself the Pokey Little Puppy, those like the little Golden Book series. I used to love a lot, and when I got a little older, I liked the more adult reading of Wayside School.
Love
But
that.
in terms of thinking specifically about children's books that really still have that impression on me, I can still visualize them today very strongly. The first would be Henry and Mudge, which is from 1987. I would refer to this as like realistic Clifford the Big Red Dog, where it's a little boy named Henry and his English Mastiff named Mudge, so his big old dog, and they go on adventures together and they love each other a lot. I can see why the first book got me, and this is a series that whenever the Scholastic Book Fair would roll around, I would bring my crumpled dollars, just like you said, to try and get the next installment. The first one, I can see why it hooked me because it's so emotional, big on heart, but small on events, because they literally just have separate dreams where they lose each other. And it ends with this. And when Henry woke up and knew Mudge was with him, he remembered the dream and the looking and the calling and the fear, and he knew he would never lose Mudge again. And
Oh,
so even just dreaming about losing your dog was enough to send you into a panic, as it obviously would. And so thank you for the lifelong anxiety, Henry and Mudge. But I love that series a lot.
yeah, and I think a lot of childhood books touch on anxiety, which is important because as kids, we are actually going through a lot of anxiety, even
Mhm.
though our lives may seemingly be simple. It's like those little worries that we have. And so the children's books speak to that and show an outcome like, oh, everything's going to be okay. So I can see what that would resonate. A boy and his dog, I mean,
Yeah,
classic.
very, very classic. And speaking of classic, clowns, So, actually, I dislike clowns. No offense to clowns, but they creep me out. And I'm as surprised as you are, though, that one of my favorite books as a kid was The Clownarounds by Joanna Cole. This is from 1981. And really, it's all about the art for me in this one. It's extremely zany, so imaginative. The house they live in particular, which is like a clown head, where like the front steps are the tongue lolled out and you enter through the mouth and the windows are the eyes. It really captures that feeling of being a kid and how there's a face in everything, everything's personified. The illustrations in this book remind me of how like kids' rooms used to be painted sometimes. If any caring adult would come in and paint like a clown on a wall, and the whole plot revolves around like a photo contest. You're not really so concerned with the events of the book when you're reading it. You're just really taking in the illustrations and this crazy family. But yeah, The Clownarounds by Joanna Cole was one that stuck with me forever. And to this date, it's kind of the only, outside of maybe Bozo the Clown, the only clowns I really care about.
When you said zany, you weren't lying. I'm looking at the cover of this book, and it's just like a lot of action. So it's definitely a feast for the eyes if you're a kid. So I could see why you would be drawn to this. And you hit the nail on the head when you said like this is like kind of art you would see on a bedroom wall or in a doctor's office, even that style.
That made another book that made a lifelong on me because it really merged my interest, stuffed animals, and my fantasy of staying inside of a department store. And that's this remorse is responsible for me anthropomorphizing all of my toys because everyone is so cruel to him because he's a button. And so no one wants to buy corduroy. He's sitting on, and the night that he realizes he's missing a button because someone says it to him as he's sitting on the shelf, he goes searching for it all over. And the little girl, though, comes back from the next day because she likes him just the way he is. And she ends up fixing his little overall. Even also it takes care, she likes the way he is with him. And to me, that really exemplified a love and acceptance, but also that we must care for. I don't know. I really took the message of corduroy to heart. And
Yeah, and I think every kid has that toy that's a little imperfect, and that's always the
mhm.
most special one. But yeah, some of these children's books really pull on the heartstrings. Like even you
Yeah.
rehashing that, I'm like already heartbroken all over again.
Jillian, how about you? What were the books that still stick with?
Ooh, okay, so I'm gonna start from the early days. There's one picture book called "Which One Would You Choose?" and it was published in 1989, the year I was born, and the author is Edith Coonhart Davis, and Edith is the daughter of author Dorothy Coonhart, who wrote the famous children's book Pat the Bunny. And I don't know why this book really stuck with me. I can still picture it in my head all these years later. But it follows this pair of siblings and they're asked, "What would you choose? What would you choose for breakfast? What would you choose to wear today?" And the illustrations are so simple, cute, and charming. And that's what really drew me to this book. I think the autonomy of when you're little and just taking your finger and pointing, "Oh, I would have the toast for breakfast," or "I'd have the blue shirt. I'll have the strawberry ice cream cone." I just found it so fun. And I think those simple miniature drawings, because 'cause they're actually very small, the drawings. You don't really see that anymore in children's books, just the simplicity of it.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, a great instructional text because it has the pattern recognition that kids, as they're learning. Will chose the yellow kitten. Maggie chose the calico kitten. Which one would you choose? And you can reinforce this and get a lot of interaction and responses from the student. This is like a, I can see why you became such a great reader, Jillian, with books like
Well,
this.
I also became a great fighter because I'd read it with my sister and like, "No, I got the calico," or "No, I choose the" So, I'm sure my mom was like, "Okay, like, big glass of wine after this reading." My next one, a very popular series, The Library from the Black Lagoon, and The Black Lagoon is its own series, but I chose this one specifically, and I'll get to why. But the author of this series is Mike Thaler, and he is a prolific children's book author who wrote over 70 books. And he's also known for his riddles, which I didn't know until I did my research. And from 1989 to 2007, he wrote the Black Lagoon series, which follows a young boy named Hubie who worries and daydreams about new situations. We love an anxious king. And the library from the Black Lagoon, and this follows the setup of all the books. He imagines what it's like to meet the librarian. He hears all these different stories about how she's this monster and she has big heels, which has an overdue stamp on the bottom of them. So she stomps around with the overdue stamp. Or if she hears you whispering in the library when you should be quiet, you'll get laminated. So it's just all of these kind of hysterical imaginings. And then, of course, when he meets the librarian, she's actually really lovely. So it kind of highlights that other sentiment we were talking about with one of your picks, Matt, which is the anxiety of it all. Because a lot of kids, they imagine new scary situations. And what's fun about the Black Lagoon series is that's so fantastical. And the drawings match that fantastical vibe. So I really was drawn to these series. The imagination of being a kid and creating all these narratives and scenarios in your head that really resonated with me, unsurprisingly.
I loved these. It makes me feel really old that I'm like, it was the teacher from the Black Lagoon, the OG, that got me on
Yeah.
the series, and they definitely like went on with more and more of the. We've got the entire faculty and administration of the
Yes.
school from the Black Lagoon. Got at this point, I mean, XYZ from the Black Lagoon published up through 20, which ended up being like the 25th anniversary book was The School from the Black Lagoon. But before that, we got the vice principal, the computer teacher, the school secretary, the book fair, the substitute, the dentist, the new kid, the bully, the class pet, the art teacher, the class, the custodian, the music teacher, the school bus driver, the cafeteria lady, the librarian, the school nurse, the gym teacher, the principal, and of course.
Lo-
But I also love how much it shows, like as a kid, like your whole world is going. It's your first introduction to all these like adults you don't know and have to interact with, and how scary. And how your imagination is usually the scariest part. So these are wonderful books. Thank you for bringing this up because I totally forgot about these, but they loomed large as the shadows in the book.
Yes, all well said. We got the whole administration there. I think these books would still resonate with kids today too. It's the anticipation of something, like you said, that's worse than the actual event. To round out my picks, the Dear America series, which were published from 1996 to 2004, and it was composed from a variety of authors. So they're historical fiction novels, and they look just like a diary or a journal. And what really drew me to them, they have each one had a different colored ribbon as a bookmark and was attached to the book. So it really felt like I was holding a diary in my hands, and that made it so thrilling. And I've seen comments recently about this series about like, "Oh, what radicalized you?" And it was these books because they were very progressive. They really brought the woman focus. They followed young girls, but they weren't just bystanders of history. They were actually interacting and the main focus of these historical events. So they covered the Civil War, the Industrial Revolution, every major historical event that you could think of, these books covered. And one of my favorites was Standing in the Light, The Captive Diary of Catherine Carey Logan, Delaware Valley, Pennsylvania, 1763. So it always had a different location, whether it was New York City or Chicago, different years. And yeah, these books just were so realistic. They didn't shy away from any of the issues of the time. Nothing was sanitized. Even there's some gore involved in some of them, especially this one of my picks when I focused on. But yeah, these series I think are having a renaissance now just because they were so ahead of their time. But yeah, I won't lie. What initially drew me to this at the fair was the fact that they look like a really cool journal. And I was like, "Ooh, a ribbon.
Yeah.
Pretty."
Yeah, anything that looked like it was like an artifact from the time or like it connected you to the story. I remember when the Free Willy VHS came with like the same whale pendant that the
Mm,
kid it was like art from like the natives in the Pacific West. That and I wore that was like as the most authentic thing in the world
so
because it looked
cute.
exactly like the one from the.
Yeah, any item that was connected to a book, like you said, like a souvenir, that was like the holy grail. Book and a souvenir. Need to do more of that.
Oh, they definitely do. If you go to a Scholastic book fair these days, that's still very much in
Okay.
fashion. Something like it's just like tape on a little doodad, that book's
Flying off the
flying off the shelf.
shelves. Well, children's books are as much about the content as they are about the illustrations. And Matt, you touched on the clown book as really lighting up your senses visually. But what other books resonated with you art wise?
Me, in terms of art, My very first memory of, like, really being intrigued by a picture book's art was Eric Carle's work with The Very Hungry Caterpillar and specifically Brown Bear. Brown Bear, those illustrations are so rich and looking in like, I watched some YouTube videos to prepare for this episode to see, like, how did he do this? He would paint all these different colors and texts or his on paper, and then he would cut out that paper into the color. So that's why it has so much dimension to it because and all these it's layered paint, it's layered. So you could almost feel it as a kid it on the page, and that was so evocative, and I really do love that. And, they're so accessible and childlike themselves that I think there's something you look at those illustrations as a kid and you're like, did a kid do these too? Like they're one of you, and I really love just pure connection. That picture is just quint.
Yeah, like you said, the collage. We weren't exposed to many different artistic styles when you were younger, so I think you hit the nail on the head of, like, why that really resonated with you because of the texture of it. It's just something different that we typically didn't see. It was unique.
I want to shout out my husband for reminding me of this book as we were talking about it because I was at any books that came for you and listeners. I'm going to ask you the same thing. Sound off, on our Spotify or when you leave us a nice positive review on social Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. I'll read it. I would love to hear what children's books were important to current ones, illustrations that you loved. Because conversations like this one that I had with my husband, like, really brought back memories for me because he mentioned, yeah, there was this mouse with a really delicious looking strawberry. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And I found the book because I remember reading it too. It was The Little Mouse, the Red Ripe Strawberry, and the Big Hung Bear, Don Wood. And it's illustrated by Don Wood and Odd. And it is the most delicious looking strawberry you've ever seen. And it makes you salivate just looking at it. It looks so. And my favorite illustration from the book, it's about sharing. So the mouse does share the straw with the bear. And when the mouse eating his half of the straw, eating it with like a little candlelit table. And so there's like candles next to the strawberry, like lighting it. And it's really beautiful, but also I'm always so in love with like whenever like there's a little mouse doing anything and it has candle to it.
Yeah, I'm so glad this pick came up. I don't remember this book, but I agree with you. I really wanna bite into that strawberry, and there's also a knife that they use to cut the strawberry, and the little drip of the strawberry juice is also very beautiful. It's glowy.
It's an ode to the
It
strawberry,
really
this
is. It's a
book.
love letter to the strawberry.
So that one was published in 19. And then this book from 1989, which honestly seems like late to me because it felt so modern at the time because it was so
Oh,
risque
yeah.
and it was the true story of the three little pigs. And this is with who illustrated the Stinky Cheese Man as well, which might ring. Illustrations are kind of cute and very funny, and so they felt really cool and modern to me because they were a little bit edgy. And I love this, and it really introduced me to this idea of, well, there might be another side to the story. And I do think this book is quite responsible for that trend that has been kind of beaten into the ground. Like, have you ever thought about the events of the Wizard of Oz from the Wicked Witch? I think this book kind of responds my head. But anyway, it's really wonderful, and the illustrations are just really funny.
This is why I love this episode so much because it's bringing back so many memories. If you put me on the spot, I couldn't pull this book up out of nowhere, but as soon as I saw the images, I'm like transported back into time. And this was definitely heavy on my rotation for sure.
Yeah.
It's more menacing, more has that Grimm's fairy tale vibe of the images. And it just feels very Gotham,
Yes.
which is really cool.
Even the cover is like a newspaper, like a gritty newspaper of the big bad wolf like blowing the pigs away, and it's being held by a little pig hoof, basically saying like, "This is the story that the pigs wanted you to see, but like, did you know that the wolf was just sneezing?"
That's a great pick. You picked a great lineup.
Thank you, Jillian. As did you. And I want to hear, visually speaking, what were those books that really stood out to you as having beautiful illustrations?
The Rain Babies. I don't know if you're familiar with this one.
I'm familiar with the title, but I don't think I ever read The Rain Babies. I don't know if it was like too girl coded or something for me, but like I'm looking at it now as an adult and I'm like, oh, this is such a cute book. And the illustrations are so soft and supple and gorgeous.
Yeah, and it was published in 1992. Laura Melmed wrote it, and it's illustrated by Jim LaMarche. The plot is, taking it from Goodreads, in the magic of a moon shower, a childless couple find a dozen tiny babies in the grass, small enough to rock to sleep in a pair of wooden shoes. The children never grow. Even the tiniest babies can bring adventure, and these little ones seem to find trouble as easily as bees find flowers. But the old couple's love never wavers, and in the end, they're rewarded with their heart's desire. So, this book really hit a lot of chords with me because I love fairy tales. I love the magic of ordinary life being transformed by something unexpected. So when I was little, I was like, oh, I would love if I woke up and I found some little tiny babies in my backyard. It's made as a little girl coded because definitely like, oh, babies, baby dolls. Like that was super big for me back then, but just something secret and fun to take care of that really resonated with me. And by old, I don't know what they mean by old. Are we talking 40s? It's really hard to do. They made them look super old, but I bet they're just, yeah, 45 or something. And like Matt said, the illustrations are warm, they're lifelike, and the moon babies are painted with such a magical glow. And anything involving glow is so beautifully drawn. There's this one particular part in the book where basically the moon mama comes disguised as this woman in a beautiful big coat. And she tries to get the older couple to give up the moon babies in exchange for this beautiful necklace, and it's like this glowing orb, and when I was little, I was like, "I want that necklace so bad. I would trade those moon babies." There is a beautiful necklace, and just the glow of the woman being lit up by this gorgeous necklace, and there's a candle in the background, and her gorgeous coat is illuminated. I can see that in my mind's eye forever. It's just a beautiful book, and it is really sweet despite the fact, like, everyone just wishes for babies. But, yeah, so that was a top pick for me.
The perspectives in these illustrations are incredible. The way we're looking up at the couple looking at the moon babies, like, as the light illuminates their faces. You're absolutely correct, like, the lighting in this book is so beautiful. There's another composition of them, like, laying in the grass playing with them that's, like, top down. That's a really pretty image as well. Like, it has to be one of the most beautifully illustrated children's books of all times. This is a great pick.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this book. It's funny, like, when I was composing this episode, I don't even know how the memories came back, but every time I unlocked it, I was like, "Man, there's so many good children's books in this era." And one of those is Stella Luna. It's very popular and is published in 1993, and it was written and illustrated by Janelle Cannon. If you're not familiar with the premise, Stella Luna is a fruit bat who becomes separated from her mother and undergoes many adventures on her way home. And the illustrations are so detailed, yet really soft and delicate. And similar to Rain Babies, everything's illuminated in a really beautiful way. The night drawings are so evocative and really takes you on a journey alongside Stella Luna. So when I was coming up with the picks, this immediately came to mind.
These are illustrations are just so unique. All the featured subjects in the pieces are illuminated with their own light. They're very bright against a darker background, which communicates night without seeming dark.
Mhm.
And it's a really wonderful way of depicting that. One of the last images of like the birds hanging upside down with the bats is really cute.
Yeah, because when Stella Luna gets separated from her mother, she takes refuge with birds. So she has to live like a bird and try to live like them. So I think is the flipped at the end. It's a really cute book. So not only were there a lot of big hits back when we were young, but there are a lot of modern hits that we can appreciate today. Matt, not to make us feel old, but what modern day books, I say scratch your bookmark.
I would say one thing that I was exposed to recently is a parody of If You Give a Mouse a Cookie called If You Give a Mouse an iPhone. It's actually been around for over 10 years. It's from 2014 by Android. And I'm reading that name out loud right now, and I'm like, that's definitely a pseudonym. Android. We get it.
Oh boy, yeah.
Anyway, so If You Give a Mouse an iPhone is about a mouse that gets so distracted that he literally walks off a cliff and gets stranded on a deserted island. And it's as simple as that, but I think it's a great thing to read with kids to remind them to balance their screen time. And then a more recent release, I think this was released in 2021, but I think very in line with our cozy values of cottagecore and witchcraft, is Little Witch Hazel, A Year in the Forest by Phoebe Wall. And I think we might have mentioned Little Witch Hazel in the context of coloring books before or things like that. But this children's book series is about Little Witch Hazel, who is a tiny witch who lives in the forest and helps creatures big and small. She's a midwife, an intrepid explorer, a hard worker, and a kind friend. And this is a 4-season volume. And you know that we love seasonal content here on the show. Little Witch Hazel goes through all the seasons of the year. In one season, she's rescuing an orphaned egg. In another, she's sailing on a raft. In fall, she is solving the mystery of a haunted stump and makes house calls to fellow forest dwellers. So very rustic illustrations that are so charming and cute. And if this is where we're headed with children's book series, we're in good shape.
I love the title Little Witch Hazel. It's just so
Hmm.
cute.
Yes, very cute.
And for folks who don't know, I was a babysitter for many years, from 16 to, oh, I don't even know, like 25 or something. It was a long time. And so a lot of families, a lot of children's books. And one of them, when I was a babysitter in Baltimore, a big hit, Dragons Love Tacos, published in 2012 by Adam Rubin. And the summary is dragons love tacos. They love chicken tacos, beef tacos, great big tacos, and teeny tiny tacos. So if you want to lure a bunch of dragons to your party, you should definitely serve tacos. Buckets and buckets of tacos. Unfortunately, where there are tacos, there's also salsa. And if a dragon accidentally eats spicy salsa, oh boy, you're in red hot trouble.
This is a dangerous combo.
Yes. So I think it was just a really funny and going back to zany combination. I think kids love that, like an everyday item or action and juxtaposed with something really unhinged.
Hmm.
The kids I read this to, they just loved it and they would request it night after night. And so I became a fan, I think, just by reading it over and over again. It's silly, it's fun. I mean, who doesn't love tacos? And I did see on Reddit some parents hate this book.
Why?
I was trying to
Their
figure out
babysitter kept
why.
reading it to their kids and it's ruining their lives. Yeah.
I want taco. But yeah, if there are any parents out there who are familiar with this book and there's some controversy, let us know in the comments. I'm really curious as to what the beef is with the tacos and the
Ooh,
dragons.
nice pun.
My next pick, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, published in 2007, and it's an ongoing series, but that's when the first one was published, and it's by Jeff Kinney. And the series follows the adventures of middle schooler Greg Heffley, who documents his heroic wins and hapless losses in his diary alongside signature doodles. One of my kids in Boston was obsessed with this series, and I thought it was really funny. It's one of those books that does nods to adults, and that can be really fun. So you're not repeating Dragons Love Tacos over and over again. You get a little bit of humor that you can appreciate. And I think obviously what makes the series really popular is the doodles. They're really fun and cute and imaginative. And obviously this series took off and has a whole nother life with movies and all that stuff. But I think that journal quality we're talking about with the Dear America series, this has that too, where it feels like you're holding someone's journal and you're really invested. And it feels so personal and close.
This is past, obviously, our time, but you can see the massive impact this book had on kids all across the world, even through the really successful film series that I have never watched a second of, but I know that there's like a whole bunch of people obsessed with. I wonder if one day there's going to be somebody who's like, we were with Alonzo Duralde when he was like, I've never seen Hocus Pocus, and we flipped out at him. We made him watch it, like literally sat him down. I feel like it's going to happen to a Diary of a Wimpy Kid one day.
I'd never seen it either. I just only read a bunch of the books reading the books alongside someone, I guess. Like
Yeah.
secondhand reading. Well, speaking of movies we're probably gonna have to watch one day, what are some favorite movies or TV shows that are inspired by children's books that you love?
I've mentioned this a lot on the show, but it's been a minute, I think, so I think it deserves another mention. And of course, that is Arthur. Every day when you're walking down the street, the people that you meet have an original point of view. Jekyll, Jekyll, Hyde, Hyde, Jekyll. I love Arthur. The TV show ran from 1996 to, I believe, like 2022 ish. And there was never a moment where in my life, whether that was when I was a kid in 1996 or an adult in 2020 or whatever, where I wouldn't stop whatever I was doing and finish an episode of Arthur. There's something so calming about the pace of the show, the issues that they're dealing with. It's so gentle, but it's also doesn't patronize you. It's whatever age you are, it meets you. And I think Arthur's just such a powerful show. Arthur the Aardvark is incredible. And so much so actually that it's one of those shows that is so successful on its own that when I would go back and try to read the books and be like, why does Arthur look like this? Because the original illustrations of Arthur the Aardvark looked much more aardvarky and a little odder. And now that I'm older, I find it very charming. But back then I was like, that doesn't look like the show. And it really bumped me. So my other favorite, I used to love the Berenstain Bears books. And it takes everything in my power not to say Bernstein. But anyway, the Berenstain Bears also had TV shows, and they had one series that was in 1985, and they had another series that was in 2002. And I don't know which one I watched, Jillian. I have to be totally honest with you. I don't remember if it was early or late or when it got in my brain. It could have been the later one when I was like a freshman, an eighth grader or a freshman at the time. So it's a little old. I think but I was also no stranger to turning on like cartoons in the afternoon, doing my homework and watching anything that was on. So I could see myself watching this even in high school. But it could have been that I was watching an earlier 80s version of it as well when I was much younger. But it's based in the popular book series and features Mama and Papa Bears. They raise their two cubs in the beautiful countryside community of Bear Country. I just love this country crew and all that they're up to. And at least the newer version, I would say, as I was kind of looking at like different episodes to refresh my memory, has that nice, calming, slow pace to it that I think is missing in today's children's television. And the older, actually, the 80s one's a bit more goofy, but I could see myself really enjoying it. But those are two things that came to mind of like books that I read as a kid that also translated to shows that I think I loved even more than the books.
Yeah, I never got into the Arthur books, but I was just equally as obsessed with the show. Even today, seeing clips from it, there's a lot of memes that are related to it today, especially with DW and
Hmm.
just the siblings of it all. There's just so many things to like about that show. So I'm right there with you. I would watch it today, happily.
I would too. Again, you're never too old to watch Arthur.
So for me, I have a few popular picks I'm sure people are familiar with, but Matilda from 1996. You can't go wrong with that. Perfectly cast. Another one, Ella Enchanted from 2004. And I don't think folks might be as familiar with this one. And I was obsessed with the book, like a freak for this book. And it follows this young princess named Ella, and she receives a fairy's gift. It's really not a gift, it's a curse of obedience. So she must obey every and any order. And so, similarly to Cinderella, she has stepsisters and a stepmother. And of course, they abuse her with this obedience issue. Finally, she goes on a journey to reverse the curse, and the adventure really comes through that journey. And in this movie version, it stars Anne Hathaway, which I find really funny because she also was in The Princess Diaries. So she went through her princess era,
Oh yeah, I
which
had no idea
is
this was a book.
oh yes, that book. The cover is really beautiful. And yeah, that book really ruled my childhood for a period of time. Maybe folks don't know as much about Ella Enchanted. I don't know if that movie actually really took off because I think Anne's mostly known for The Princess Diaries, but if you want more Anne vibes in your life, check out Ella Enchanted. And then my last pick, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, 2004. Jim Carrey in that movie. I think I saw that in the theaters multiple times. My friend, I don't know if she's listening, but we were just like cracking up at these like little weird one-liners, and so I have really fond memories of that series.
Yeah, I love that series too. And so I do remember in high school, I like actually ended up going nuts for it, just being like, whatever, I'm gonna indulge my. It's so funny to look back on it as like a grown man being like, why was a high schooler so ashamed to go read Lemony Snicket because it was too kiddie or something? But I enjoyed it a lot. That's a really great book series and actually like really expanded vocabulary. It was a really great thing to read, I think, for kids. I would also highly recommend the TV series that was on Netflix. Is like even better than this movie, I would say.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, it's really good. Check it out. Neil Patrick Harris is Count Olaf.
Yes.
But yeah, the original movie has so many wildly famous people. Like Meryl Streep's in it. It's just kind of wild.
Yeah. I thought it was really well done.
And there's just this sadness knowing that every caretaker they go to is not going to make it. You can't get attached to anybody.
It's like a lot of darkness that, yeah, it's intriguing as you
Yeah.
get like older. So I think that this movie was in 2004. I think of me as a freshman in high school. So I guess I was a big nerd. I didn't care. I was going to see that movie.
Also, Catherine O'Hara is the judge.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Catherine O'Hara. It's
Yeah.
one of her movies. She was Justice Strauss in the film. Before we move on, Jillian, like Jillian's like, we got to wrap this up, Matt. But I want to mention two more things that came up as my memory was being stoked for TV show adaptations. I used to love to watch Madeline.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? And that was a
Yes.
popular book
I
too.
love those books. When she get I had
Yeah.
the Madeline doll with the appendix stitch.
Yes. Oh
And
my
I
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
that
still,
was yeah.
in my head, whenever like I'm eating, I'm always thinking, we love our bread, we love our butter, but most of all, we love each other.
I had every book. Yeah.
I also loved, I didn't read the books, but I really found the cartoon calming the Babar, the elephant that was a king or
Oh, I
prince.
never got into that. What's the premise there?
I think it's like another French book series where there's like a prince. It's a little elephant prince, and he's doing things. I don't remember that much. It was like there used to be like little things that they would do around the kingdom because his dad was the king,
Oh,
and then there'd be
fancy.
other little groups and communities. There was like the rhinos were always causing trouble. Anyway, I'll let you finish there, Jillian. Go ahead.
Oh, no. No, thank you for bringing that up because that Madeline doll was one of my favorite dolls. Just like the sheer excitement of, oh, she has that appendix stitch.
hmm
Like, what? Yeah, what's under her pantaloons? It's like,
It's all coming together now.
yeah, it's all coming together. So thank you for taking me back there. And this has been such a nostalgic journey, and it's sad to wind it down, but because we could go on for days and days. I really could sit here for hours, honestly. But let's take it down to a small last bite of a teacher's apple with a very gentle Battle of the Books Classics edition. So I tried to organize it by picture books and then going up in age or fantasy, try to get everything in there, fairy tales. So it's not that I prefer one over the other. I'm just trying to find a way to sensibly group it. So with that, Matt, The Very Hungry Caterpillar versus Goodnight Moon.
Very hungry caterpillar. I did already shout out Eric Carle, but I'm also very hungry all the time.
I say Goodnight Moon. Anne of Green Gables versus The Secret Garden.
Secret Garden.
Me too. There's a movie of The Secret Garden.
Yes, I love that movie. I was always
Yes,
obsessed with it.
me
Yes.
too.
It's a secret. I gotta know what the secret is.
The Chronicles of Narnia versus Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Alice's Adventures in Wonderland loomed way larger for me. Both the Disney movie and the books I was way more into because they just confused the crap out of me as a kid. And I think because they are more accessible for younger kids, they get you earlier.
I'm a Chronicles of Narnia gal because I like anything you open a door and just step into another. That's,
I
all,
totally
all
get
I
that.
needed.
I love the Chronicles of Narnia too for that. I'll go anywhere if it's through a wardrobe.
Yeah. Matilda versus Pippi Longstocking.
Pippi Longstocking, she's coming into your world.
I say Matilda just because Pippi is like the pixie manic dream girl. I'm like, stay away from me, Pippi. I just have affinity for Matilda. I think Pippi can be charming too. Grimm's fairy tales versus Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales.
Grimm any day of the week. I gotta have some dark and twisted endings.
Me too. And I think we've covered Grimm's on the show before
Yes.
extensively. Now that we've read enough books to earn a pizza party, Matt, you paying?
You deserved it, Jillian. You're gonna get all the stickers. So many stars from today's performance.
On this little side note, my class did get in trouble when we somehow cheated our way to the pizza party because we had to take a little quiz after reading each book.
hmm
And so we found a way to like, oh, we know just enough to complete the quizzes and we skimmed through the books.
You can't get in trouble for playing the game.
Yeah.
Don't hate the player.
Don't hate the player, you're right. So let's retire our bookmarks and settle in with a candle review. I'm going to just straight out the gate say it's a sandalwood scent. There's nothing special about the scent. It's very lovely and very nice. But why I picked this candle is I found it in a store in my neighborhood, but you can buy it on the 3 Potato 4 website. It's a collaboration with Richard Scarry illustration. So it features the bunny from the I Am Bunny book, which was written by Ola Reesum and was illustrated by Scarry. And Scarry is known for his Busy Town book series.
I love the Busy Town series. Those towns were very busy. Cars going everywhere. We got lots of buildings. Everyone's got a place to go.
Go, 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 go. So this is a really beautiful candle because it features this green printed glass vessel with the cute bunny under this red mushroom. And it's just really adorable and timeless. And it's a souvenir if you're invested in children's books or Richard's Illustrations or the I Am Bunny book. I can't wait until the Kindle is done so I can use it as an Easter decoration because I think it would work
Mm.
perfectly for this. It's really beautifully made. It's not like a cheap screen printing.
Yeah.
It seems like legit. I mean, on the website it costs $28. In the store it cost me $30. So I would recommend, I guess shipping would probably make it a little bit more expensive, but you get your money's worth for what it looks like. And it's an officially licensed product of Richard Scarry, which is cool. So I give this a wick up.
Yeah, I love the art. The little bunny with its hands on its knees, like crouching under a mushroom. Too cute.
It's really too cute. And yeah, nothing to write home about the scent. I just got this for the vessel. And sometimes you do that, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do it for the vessel. Well, Matt, of course, our busy town wouldn't be complete without our listeners. Let's check in with a Spotify comment.
Yes, Danielle on Spotify wrote, always love listening to this podcast at work or on the go, and it never fails to make me happy and relaxed. Sending cozy vibes from Canada. Thank you, Danielle. We've received your cozy vibes. We're feeling very cozy. Thank you for leaving us a comment on Spotify. And we would love to hear from anyone who's listening to us on that platform. Add a comment to our episodes. It's very interactable.
Yeah, I would love to see a comment no matter where it's left.
And we're really glad that we're making you feel happy. You made us feel happy today.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Danielle.
We've had quite the adventure revisiting our favorite children's books, but we need to close a chapter of this episode before we get an overdue notice. But before we go, a friendly reminder to please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Cozy Podcast and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until then, stay cozy.